a brand new, so we're continuing to spread out and just help to provide education and support through monthly meetings at each of the locations. Ours has the streaming, the videos are online afterwards, so you can actually watch the videos of either ours or other programs, other chapters. And then they occasionally have symposiums as well and some podcasts. My name is Dorothy Griffin. I didn't introduce myself at the beginning, and I co-chair ACAP with Ruth. And then we also have a leadership team of 13 professionals that are in primarily the senior care industry that help to put on these meetings. Just have a few announcements. There are 3 different sheets on your table. One of them is if you want to receive the emails, you can fill out your information there. The other is a feedback form, and we'll have you fill that out at the end and just leave it on the table or hand it to one of us. And that helps us just know, how some future topics that you might be interested in and just some feedback on the program itself. And then the other form that you should have there are all the programs through June of this year. And we will have one every month, the second Tuesday, but that just lets you know what's coming up. So our programs are made possible by sponsors. And so we're gonna let Linda share just a few minutes about Elder House as they're our sponsor for this program. Thanks, Linda.
Make sure I stand between the tables.
That's right.
Good evening. We're glad to be here. My name is Linda Barrow, like she said, and I am the Marketing Enrollment Director for Elder House Incorporated. And the reason Incorporated is that we have 3 areas of service for seniors. We have a home care division, which of course is bathing and dressing and other, coming in the home. And then we have, it's called Alper Center at the Lake, Alper at the Lake. And it is the adult daycare that has been in Wilmington at least over 40 years, started up with Linda Pace. And that is a great place for socialization and stimulation, a younger population, 18 or older, and different types of funding there, mostly private pay. But the PACE program was really what I would like to bring up real quickly, and that is the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. It's a comprehensive health care plan that utilizes preventative care to maintain seniors in their home. Saying that is, we want our seniors to be in the home and not have to go to a nursing home. And when we say all-inclusive, it's all-inclusive. We become their insurance along with their care provider. So we have a team of professionals at the PACE clinic, PT, OT, speech, all the therapies. I also have a medical director, but we have a day center there too with an activity director, social workers. I mean, it's just something to come and see. So if you think you would like to take a tour, please let me know and we'll make sure you get the required information. And I'm a little nervous standing up here in front of my boss, but but once again, Linda Barrow, and thank you so much for presenting tonight.
Great, thank you, Linda. And if you're interested in more information on Elder House, they also have some information back there on the kind of sponsor table. So I have the pleasure of welcoming Kelly Cahill of Lower Cape Fear Life Care. And she's been a registered nurse for 43 years. So she must have started when she was about 10. She has her master's degree in nursing and several certifications in addition. She's a certified hospice and palliative nurse. She has her certification in TPA-SNO's Positive Approach to Care, and she's also been a dementia certified nurse for the past 5 years. She's been with Lower Cape Fear Life Care for the past 23 years as a community nurse educator covering 11 counties, and she's married with 2 adult sons and is originally from Michigan. And an interesting fact, she also is a recent recipient of the North Carolina AARP Inspiration Award. So congratulations on that. So welcome, Kelly.
Well, good evening, and it truly is an honor and a pleasure to be asked to speak at this wonderful organization. I am taking Anne LaRue's place tonight. And if you know of Anne, she passed away unexpectedly before the holidays. And she was a guru expert on caregiving and dementia care. And I did steal a couple little things. She used to carry a briefcase many, many years ago, a little brown briefcase, and she'd pull out these little information sheets. And I incorporated some of her information tonight because I always want to give credit to where credit is due. So on that note, we'll get started. I'm very, very informal. So if you have questions along the way, just pop your hand up and I'll try to answer them for you. The topic tonight is interesting. It's called compassion fatigue. But we also know that there's caregiver burnout, and they overlap quite a bit. So what I did is I took our teaching sheet that we use at Lower Cape Fear Life Care when we're out in the community, and then another teaching sheet on compassion of fatigue, and just some do's and don'ts and little tips for all of you. The PowerPoint I have is on a flash drive in my desk. I never bring it anywhere because there's usually not a wall or technology breaks down and then I'm at a loss. So what I do is I copy all my information and I'll look down from time to time to stay on task and do this presentation. So first and foremost, how many of you out there have been a caregiver or you are a caregiver right now? Okay, so if you have children, your hand should have went up because 18 years of caregiving if you're lucky. Now, I talk about my children quite a bit. I call them thing one and thing two. They're Michael and Zach, and they're in their 30s. And although I'm not a hands-on caregiver to them anymore, they still need me in different ways and still want some advice and tidbits. So everybody's a caregiver. If you've had a child or you've raised a grandchild, you've been doing your caregiving and nurturing. And then sometimes you have to think, how do I take care of myself through all of this? Others of us are caregivers to either spouses or parents. We may have a disabled child. So I think it's a really broad category, and then we can tailor it if you are a caregiver to your parent. So is caregiving causing you stress? So we have a little mini test to do first, and we'll see how many points you get or you don't get when we do this little mini test. Am I easily agitated with those I love? Now, I'm not talking about your spouse because he's being a pain in the whatever, but do you get agitated easily? Are you using a sharp voice? Are you slamming drawers when something really irritates you? Are you turning around in defiance and mumbling under your breath? You know, those are all different signs that things may not be going well and they're kind of spiraling. Am I becoming overly critical of others? Oh, she has no idea what my life is like as she's out there in her garden planting her tomatoes and never offering me one off the vine. You know, am I critical of my siblings who think they know how to take care of my parents, but they're not the ones actually coming over to the house? They're micromanaging over the telephone, telling me what to do. Am I having difficulties laughing and having a good time? When you think about it, when was the last time you had a full belly laugh over just something really, really funny? You know, is it always gloom and doom for you? Is there never a chance to smile at the beauty of something you see outdoors? So those are all things too. Does a new flower bring you joy and happiness? We had kind of a fake spring a few weeks ago, and some of my flowers came out and they knew they shouldn't have been out. But it was like, how joyous that they brought a little smile when I looked out the window. Am I turning down invitations to be with others? That would be if I belong to Mahjong or the Red Hat Ladies or a bowling league, or I meet with my veteran friends for coffee. Am I turning down those invitations because I am so important I cannot leave the house for anything? Okay. So if I'm starting to do that and extract myself from being with other people, that could be another sign. Am I feeling depressed about my situation? Am I gloom and doom? Am I the only one in the world going through this right now? Am I feeling hurt when my efforts go unnoticed? So let's think about that. Even if you weren't a caregiver and you are working hard at work and you've done a huge project and oh my gosh, it was just wonderful and nobody takes notice of it. Now think about caregiving. You are doing this day in and day out and you never get a thanks, sister. I really appreciate what you're doing for mom. Thank you for always doing the grocery shopping. Thank you for sending money so I can have a respite break and hire somebody. So those are some things that you can look at. But if your feelings are getting hurt constantly, that could be a big stressor in your life. Am I feeling trapped with all of these responsibilities? Do I feel like I have nowhere to go? I'm in this space and I have to stay here. Am I being manipulated? Now, this is an interesting one because if your parent or your loved one is living with dementia, you have to remember that some days they can do things and some days they can't do things. If you have older parents that do not have dementia and they're in their 90s, yesterday they could put their jacket on all by themselves and today they need your help. Do you feel like you're being manipulated? Like they want to get something from you or out of you? Okay. Do they have an underlying motivation? Am I missing sleep and my regular exercise? Am I going to bed 3 and 4 hours later than I normally would because I'm so worried about things? You know, am I getting enough exercise? Am I still walking down to the mailbox every day, or am I sending my child to go get the mail? Sometimes 5 minutes of fresh air can just do a lifetime of, inner peace. Am I too busy with quiet time with my higher being? Now, I had to really think about that when I was developing this tidbit page, because this is actually from a source. And some people go to the complete opposite, and they spend so much time with their higher being, whatever that is, that they ignore everything around them. So instead of taking care of maybe their responsibilities or their feeling of being overwhelmed, they are in the corner reading the Bible and ignoring everything that's going on around. And it could be a dangerous situation. So you have to look at that balance. Balance is key to everything, moderation. Am I feeling guilty when I take time for myself? Even as a mother or a father, when you take 5 minutes to watch the football game or a basketball game, or you take 5 minutes to just take the car to get it washed, do you feel guilty about that because you actually left the situation for 5 minutes? Are you beating yourself up like, I'm not deserving of this? So those are all things to ask yourself. So there's a list here. Does anybody have 2 or more of those stressors? Raise your hands high. Nothing to be ashamed of, right? I think we can all relate to at least one of these stressors. And if we're a caregiver, maybe a couple of those. So this is to show you like, hey, maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe I need to reprioritize my life. Maybe I need to attend this workshop and get the tools I need to live a better and healthier life. So what 2 things do you personally do to take care of yourself, to promote self-care? Who would like to share what they do for maybe 5 minutes a day to promote self-care?
I would have to say spend my quiet time with my higher being.
In moderation, right?
Right.
Right. Excellent. Like to read. Excellent. That really can take your mind far, far away when you're in a book about France or something, right? Paranormal fantasy, she said.
That's really out there.
She likes to read books about paranormal fantasies. Okay. And being with my higher being.
I'm a Christian and I do enjoy the Bible, but also journaling when I'm under stress, just really writing down before me and the Lord what's going on in my thinking, how am I feeling, and with some certain stressors.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Her response was journaling, writing down what her stressors are, just writing thoughts down. Journaling is just so easy to do. And the problem with journaling is if you're like me and you save all 270 copies from the time you were 13 and you go back and you read them and you go, oh my gosh. And then you destroy them because you don't want your children, thing one and thing two, to ever read what your journals were when you were 13 years old. But as an adult, journaling is very cathartic. It helps a lot of people, including myself.
And gratitude.
And
Not
gratitudes.
just complaining, I mean, being honest about the problems, but also thanksgivings and gratitude.
So the respondent also said gratitude in your journal, being grateful for the little things like you saw a new daffodil bloom. You saw a sweet little dog walking down the street. Somebody, the other day I was just walking outside and just trying to win a contest at work for the most steps, but Jason in the back beat me by steps. But this gentleman handed me a little Bible phrase, and he had a little card, and he said, do you mind if I give this to you? I said, no, thank you. And it was just very touching. Can I remember it now? No, but I did go ahead and I taped it on my refrigerator. We have a question from the Zoom land.
Just a comment from Karen who's watching on YouTube, and she said, I have a goal to walk 5,000 steps every day, even if it's walking in circles in my house. It's really beneficial to my attitude.
I love it. On our in the sky cloud person, just walking 5,000 steps a day and just looking at the beauty around you. Walking is free. Walking is the cheapest exercise you can do, and you don't necessarily have to have tennis shoes to do some walking. But counting your steps every day is a wonderful way to get that exercise and relieve stress that you have built up. So one of the greatest challenges we have in the healthcare profession is self-care, because everybody else is more important than us, we think. But if the person does not take care of himself, what happens to the person who needs the help? Right? So self-care for us enables us to care for others. Caregiver stress is the stress that occurs from caretaking of another person, particularly patients, as we would say in the healthcare arena. The caregiver may experience work overload, time pressure to get tasks done, risk of infectious exposures, difficulty or deathly ill patients, or lack of peer support. And they may lose sight of their own kind of things. So if you turn to the next page, there's some warning signs of caregiver burnout. Physically, let's think of some warning signs. We can think of TV commercials, and if anybody wants to do that dance, upset stomach. I can't think of all the words to it. But physically, you can be exhausted and worn out. But what are some physical symptoms when you are really stressed? Think of a time that maybe you were taking a test and you had to pass it. Maybe it's your driver's license test, but something that really stressed you out. Physically, what happened to you? So sweating could be something that happens, that little diaphoretic sweating, going right down the middle or right down the back or wherever it may go. What else? Nausea and upset stomach. And what medicine do we take for that? Pepto-Bismol, right? Headache, definitely a stress, tension headache. It could be indigestion. It could be, I've got to sit down. I am so stressed. I can't think straight. I've got way too much going on in my head. So all those different kind of things physically can happen to you. Emotionally, you can get very resentful of others. You wish you had their life because they're not taking care of anybody. They're free. You see them getting in their car and doing things and going here and there and going on fabulous trips. And you're just like, why me? Why am I stuck in this house taking care of somebody? And you do think that, because when you've been taking care of somebody for 2 or 3 or 4 years without a break, you do say, why me? I want to be out having fun like everybody else is. But you can also get very bitter. And if you become very bitter, it's going to destroy your life faster with that added stress. We don't want to become so bitter. We want to look at our area resources in New Hanover County, reach out to people. How can these people help me? I'm becoming a person I don't like. Okay. Crying is very cathartic. Crying is really good, but emotional outbursts in public, not so good. It kind of scares people a little bit. So crying may be the way that you ease your frustration. You may wait till you go to sleep at night and cry on your pillow, or cry first thing in the morning or in the shower. But crying is okay. Sometimes it just really relieves some of the stress and tension that you have. Relationships, you feel underappreciated by others. You may even have best friends who all of a sudden dropped off the face of the earth. You may have couple friends who no longer call you anymore because your person that you're with is chronically ill. And that hurts your heart. That's a big stressor. Like, where are all these friends I've had for years? They've gone by the wayside. Has anybody experienced a change in friendships when you're caring for somebody with a chronic illness or disease? Good. You've all everybody's maintained their friendships with people. Excellent. And then financially, we can be so overwhelmed because maybe mom actually, people are working. We had a lady the other day that was hostessing at a restaurant we went to, and she was in her 70s and still working because she had to. So maybe I'm taking care of her now, and that income from 3 nights a week is no longer there, and it's putting a financial burden on me. Maybe I'm having to pay for someone to come in and sit with my mom while I go grocery shopping or go to my doctor appointment. And you can get resentful for that too. And it becomes financially overwhelming, especially if it's a spouse that loses their job from a chronic illness or disease, or they're on FMLA, or they're on disability, and their disability check is 1/3 of what they were normally getting. These are all things that can cause caregiver burnout really fast. So what can you do? What are the best strategies? Learning how to relax, easier said than done, because your mind is going a million times a minute, right? How do you relax? So one of the things we teach in our dementia care classes is closing some files in your head. So when I'm young, when I'm in my 20s and 30s, I can have many files open in my brain. I can multitask. I can do many, many, many things all at the same time. So I look at my children and they're doing 4 or 5 things at the same time, and they talk really fast. They're fast talkers, and they mumble and they turn around and you don't know what they're saying. But then when you say, "Can you repeat that?" "Oh, Mom, you're getting old." "Yeah, well, I am, but you also talk fast. You're a fast talker." So we tell people, close some of those files in your head. You've got too much going on. Maybe just keep 1 or 2 files open, concentrating on what you have to do in the next hour and what you have to do in the next 6 hours, instead of all 24 files being open on what you have to do every single minute of the day. Okay, so try to declutter your mind and relax. Set a timer for a specific amount of minutes to simply relax and clear your mind. That works. Get one of those cheap $1.25 store items, little white timer, and set it for 5 minutes and go in your private area. It could be your bathroom with the door shut if there's little grandkids in the house. It could be your back patio. It could be your front porch. But allow yourself the 5 minutes of just peacefulness and mindfulness until the timer goes off. Count backwards from 100. It is very hard to focus on problems when you are counting backward from 100. So as I'm pulling references together and we do this class, I thought, oh, baloney. Well, I tried doing that, counting back from 100, and it really is like you can't think about other things because you're concentrating on going downwards, right? So that could be something that you could do just to take a deep breath and de-stress a little bit. Take care of yourself, get plenty of rest, eat well. Avoid alcohol. Some people do the opposite. When they're having a lot of stress going on, they may drink more than they normally do. Get moving. When you're nervous, angry, or upset, release that through physical exercise. If you have steps up in the garage, up to the second floor, in the kitchen, wherever, climb those steps a couple times. You'd be surprised at how hard it is to think about climbing steps versus falling, right? So you're going to be really, really careful that you don't fall, and you're thinking about that, and everything else kind of goes out of your head. So just be mindful of that. Organize and make lists. But I'm going to tell you a little caveat to that. Jason and I, maybe some of you are very familiar with Mike Collins, and he is a caregiving burnout guru, I would call him. And when he does an in-service, he can do a half a day and have his PowerPoint and just talk about caregiving. But one thing I pulled from with his permission, is the to-do list. Make it about 4 Ds. D as in dog. Can I delay this activity? What would happen if I do the wash tomorrow instead of today? Can I delegate a task? Could I ask my son to go to the post office to get me some stamps? Could I ask my daughter to go put gas in my car? Or do I feel I'm the most important person and the only one that can do it? What if I don't do it? That's the 3rd D. What if I don't do it? Will the world end? Does it come crashing down if I didn't do it? Instead of making roast beef and potatoes for dinner tonight, would it kill my husband if he had scrambled eggs and bacon? I think not. Happy Valentine's Day. I did put a heart in the eggs, so I mean, come on. But what is the worst that can happen if you delay something where you don't do it? And then the other D is just do it. Instead of thinking about it for an hour and a half, should I go walk down the steps and get the mail now? Should I go down and get the mail now? Should I go down and just go get it? Okay. So I learned that from Mike Collins. And like I said, he's an expert, very, very well versed. So we talked about stress and burnout. Your next page is very specific. And Rebecca Bundy, I don't usually use this in teaching, but she wrote a very good Understanding Compassionate Fatigue, which is what tonight's primary focus is. So the noun for compassion is a feeling of distress caused by the suffering of another and the desire to alleviate it. Fatigue is the decreased capacity or inability to function normally because of excessive stimulation or prolonged exertion. And those two together equal compassion fatigue. And I like the lower right-hand side of the handout. I don't know, will we be able to have the handout on the website?
Afterwards.
Okay, afterwards. Okay, that'll be great. So compassion fatigue is the profound emotional and physical exhaustion that caregivers can develop over the course of their time as helpers. It is a gradual erosion of all the things that keep us connected to others in our caregiving role. So when we have compassion fatigue, we lose our empathy. We lose our hope that things are going to get better. We're just losing that caring feeling for other people. So that's something to be very careful about. So the first, we kind of went over this, the first physical types of signs that you may see are the exhaustion. I am so physically exhausted, the thought of making a sandwich puts me over the edge. I have no stamina. I'm just plain Jane tired. My body is telling me, you are tired, go rest. But I can't because I am the caregiver. Sleep problems. We can do one of two things. We either get excessive sleep because we're so fatigued, or we don't sleep at all because we're worried about everything and our mind is going a mile a minute. Does that happen to anybody when you notice you have a lot of fatigue? You either don't sleep because you're worried or you sleep too much? I see some heads bobbing. Okay. Headaches and migraines from tension. Some people say that is the biggest thing that's affecting my life, as I have constant headaches from the tension I feel for caring for my caregiver. Okay. Increased susceptibility to illness. So are you constantly having stomach pains? Are you developing maybe an ulcer? Do you get the flu over and over again? I mean, I have some people that I know that are so worn out from being caregivers that they're constantly sick and they're not even leaving the house. They just constantly have ailments, backache, stomachache, headaches, flu-like symptoms, maybe diarrhea, those kind of things. And then muscle tension. Are you feeling like your neck is just all icked up? Just really feeling kind of raunchy, tightness in your shoulders, across your shoulder blades, your lower back. You know, it's just kind of an icky feeling. And a lot of times the back is what's affected in the neck. So don't think that stress is other things. It can also be physical, and that's how it's showing up. Behavioral, we just talked about this, maybe increased alcohol. Before, I used to have a glass of wine before I, went to bed, and it helped relax me and I got a good night's sleep. Now I buy that box of wines and I set it on the side of the kitchen sink with a little spigot. And I just so happen to turn that spigot every time I go by. Okay. And then the next morning, that little old box of wine is empty. Okay. So that's something we have to watch. Maybe I had a beer every night after dinner while I watched the news, and now I'm buying a 6-pack every other day. So those are your own internal warning signs, like I'm excessively doing something and I need to be concerned. Anger and irritability. Everything bothers you. The way your husband put the chair in under the table, the way he shook the salt shaker, the way he closed the refrigerator door. You're getting irritated with your loved one from taking care of another loved one. Okay? Has anybody ever had that happen? I get irritated with my husband. He never gets irritated with me. He just kind of walks and lets me do my thing. But I mean, there's just sometimes he doesn't push that chair in right. And it's just like, got to do that. Impaired ability to make decisions. Oh, my dentist appointment is due. It's due in 2 weeks. Should I make my appointment or not? No, I better not, because what if mom needs me? We only get one set of permanent teeth. Should I go for my annual physical? I really haven't felt bad all year. I've had a couple heart palpitations, but gosh, you know what? Who's going to stay with mom? Again, self-care. If I don't go to the doctor and get my yearly checkup, if I don't go to the dentist, if I don't get my annual pap smear, these are all things that could have a negative reaction down the road. So we want to make sure we take care of ourselves. Forgetfulness. When we are very, very stressed and we're very fatigued, we may forget a lot of things. We may forget to lock the doors before we go to bed. We may forget to pay bills. They're sitting there, you know they have to be done, but every day is, I'll get to it tomorrow. And the tomorrow never comes for bill paying. You know, we put things aside. Are we forgetting to do our own personal care? Taking a shower, washing our hair, making our bed, getting dressed, or are we staying in our jammies all day? Difficulty separating personal and professional life is just one big blur. I take all of my challenges with me to work, and all day long I tell my cubicle mates how hard it is to be a caregiver every night when I get home. But I'm so thankful that my sister's there during the day, but I'm the one at night, all night, sleeping with half an ear awake, listening for mom if she calls out. So my blending my worlds together. And then problems with intimacy. Are we starting to sleep in separate bedrooms? I can't sleep with you, honey, because mom might wake up and I won't hear her. And you snore so loud. So I'm going to go in another room. So those are like little things that start happening. The psychological is the guilt. You shouldn't, have ill feelings about missing out, but we're humans. Of course, we're going to have ill feelings about missing out on things. You've heard of FOMO, fear of missing out. A lot of people have that, right? We don't want to miss out on fun things that everybody's doing, but we are missing out. Depression. I may become apathetic to everybody in my surroundings. I don't care if the grandkids visit. I don't care that my neighbor brought over food for dinner. I just really don't care about anything, okay? Loss of hope. Will things ever get better? Will things ever be the same? Things will never be the same. Once you're a caregiver, that is always a part of your life. But things could get better. You might hire somebody for 3 hours a morning so you can go take your walk or go to the grocery store or meet a friend for coffee. So there's always hope. That's what all of us humans live for every day. There's always hope that tomorrow will be better. Cynicism, are we being critical of other people, especially our family members who aren't helping us? They think sending me $20 a week is, helping me with my fatigue, and I'm trying to get mom off and on the toilet and making sure she doesn't get any sores on her behind. So we do see a lot of that. Dread of working, dread of being around others. Just don't want to do it. Anxiety. Am I having heart palpitations? These headaches? Is my stomach a wreck? Inability to tolerate strong feelings. Am I crying too much? Am I laughing inappropriately? Crying is a big one. If, someone drops their hat on the floor, you're so overwhelmed and you're so fatigued, you start crying because the hat's on the floor. We have to take a look at our inner self and say, do I need to go get some help? Do I need to talk to somebody? Hypervigilance. I call them hoverers, okay? The hovering daughter. So because I work at Lower Cape Fear Life Care, I worked in the inpatient unit for many years, and we would always have those daughters, never the sons, it seemed like, that would hover over mom, and they were the only ones that could give out their aura to mom, okay? And they were constantly touching the blankets and pulling them up and pulling them down and doing the sheets and doing this and fluffing the pillow and really irritating mom more than anything, okay? So hypervigilance, it doesn't mean that you have to be this close to your mom all day. Give your mom space. She may not want you that close every single day, okay? So you don't have to be hypervigilant for everything. Spiritual crisis. Some people really get into that mode. Is there really a God? Because if there really is a God, why is this God doing this to me? Why am I the caregiver? Or whatever spiritual being that you follow. Why me? Why not my next door neighbor? Why not that happy person that I work with that nothing seems to ever happen to her? That kind of thing. So don't get into a crisis like that of saying that God chose you and because you were strong, he knew you could do it. The cards fell where they fell, and you're the one that's taking responsibility for this now. Okay. Survival guilt. Maybe I'm in a big car accident with my family, and I'm the only one that lived through the car accident, and I have that survivor's guilt. Why not me? Why am I still here? Or you have a disabled person that was in that car that now you have to take care of the rest of your life, and maybe you have your own injuries. There's a lot of things to make you have compassion fatigue. And these are just some examples. And then self-criticism. Oh, I just can't seem to do anything right. You know, I can't fold the clothes right. I can't get mom's stuff right. What is wrong with me? I used to be organized and now I'm not. And, oh my gosh. So questioning yourself about your own capabilities. On the back page, developing fatigue resilience. How do we get over some of this? You have to acknowledge your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to go in the backyard and stomp your feet and yell, as long as you're not too close to the neighbor's house, and they'll be out the window. But, you know, am I resisting help from other people because I want to do everything myself? We are the first to want to help people, but we are the last to accept help. Why is that? Why don't we want people helping us? Does anybody know?
You won't do it as well.
Nobody can do it as well as I can.
Perception of being weak.
And perception of they must think that I'm a weakling and I just can't do it. They must think I'm a needy person. But yet they were the first to sign up to bring cupcakes or whatever to something, but we're the last one to take the help that's being offered to us. Create a self-care toolbox of activities that sustain you. Get yourself a little box and put a bunch of stuff in there. Does juicy fruit gum make you happy? A little puzzle, you know, a little puzzle. But I was going to say Beeman's gum, but I thought maybe some people wouldn't know what that was. But maybe, you know, a little word find from the $1.25 store. You could tell I have an attitude about that. But, you know, maybe some colored pencils because you like to draw. Maybe a deck of cards because you like to play solitaire. But it's your own personal little box of things that make you happy. Maybe there's a few pictures of the grandkids in there. Or maybe your graduation picture. Just something that's an activity box for you. Take mini breaks during the day. 5 minutes is refreshing. 10 minutes is even better. I'm going to tell you a true story, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'm pretty transparent. Years and years and years ago, I lived in California, and I had a 2- and a 4-year-old, and my husband was career military, and he was deployed 6 to 9 months at a time. I had to work. I had no choice. So one day I brought the little munchkins, thing 1 and thing 2, home, and they were running around crazy. They were screaming and yelling all over the house, and I was trying to make dinner for them. And I mean, I was just going crazy. I just worked all day, and there's no help. I have no family around. I haven't made friends in my new neighborhood. And I went inside my walk-in closet. I didn't shut the door. And I laid on the floor and I cried all by myself. And then one of the little munchkins found me and he wiped my little tears, and then it was over and done with. But I found my little space that I had a few minutes to myself because I was so frustrated. And then I got over it and life went on. So if you can find that little space, I know the gentleman I referred to, Mike Collins, he said, just a little place in the corner of your living room. That's your space. A little place. I could be on the staircase, the 8th stair up. Nobody can see you. Maybe you just sit there and hum your favorite tune. It's things like that. You may go, oh, that's kind of weird. But try these kind of things when you just feel like you're ready to pull your hair out. Learn to say no. Here's my new way of saying no. I'm very excited about this. I read it in Good Housekeeping. I am so flattered that you asked me, but I just can't. Okay, bye-bye. So the positive, I'm so flattered you asked me to bake a cake for tomorrow's PTA meeting, but don't give excuses. And if you're a caregiver, put a list by the telephone, by the kitchen sink of things that you need to get done this week. I need to get stamps. I need to pick up milk at the grocery store. I need to return books back from the library. I could really use someone to make lunch for my husband Thursday because I have to work. And then when somebody says, Kelly, what can I do to help you? Oh, if you could get those stamps for me, then I can send my thank you notes out. If you could just go pick up a gallon of milk and some butter for me, I won't have to fight that traffic. Things like that. Those are little things that make people feel so good because we all want to help each other. Set your boundaries. Visiting hours. You want to come and see my husband? Visiting hours are from 1 to 3, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but call me before you come. I don't want an open house with people ringing the doorbell at 8 in the morning. And trust me, I've been through that. We're just checking up to see how things are going. Are you kidding me? You got me out of bed. You know, no caller, no nothing. So we want to make sure that we set boundaries. I can't say enough for Caring Bridge. If you have somebody and you have people all over the United States wanting to know how dad's doing or mom's doing or how your husband's doing or whatever, set up a Caring Bridge page and designate somebody, delegate, do your D, designate, and have somebody do your Caring Bridge page. Mom had an awesome day. We took her out for an ice cream and drove around the lake afterwards. We saw 2 swans in the lake, and she had a great day. That way everybody knows, and they don't call you at night when you get home from work saying, how's mom today? What'd she do? Where'd she go? Who'd she talk to? Okay. So if you could do that, Caring Bridge is free. They do from time to time throw up the little if you'd like to make a donation, but it's a great communication tool. Quit overthinking things. Increase your exercise, eat better, increase your fruits and your vegetables to 3 to 4 servings a day. Get those special nutrients in your body. Take some online classes. There's classes that are 20 minutes long. There's podcasts that are fabulous. That's your quiet time. Watch a YouTube video. Maybe you want to learn to hula hoop. Watch the 3-minute YouTube video on how to hula hoop with a weighted hula hoop like Kelly did. Learn to debrief in a way that does not re-traumatize others. So when you give people information, just do bullet points. Don't go into the gory details of, oh my God, you won't believe the mess mom made last night. She threw up all that gravy that she put on her mashed potatoes and there was like butter and nobody needs to know that. Just say, you know what, mom wasn't feeling well last night. She had an upset stomach. We don't have to traumatize other people. Support groups. When you're in a support group, you're with like-minded people. You're all going through the same thing. There are so many support groups in our town. This wonderful group, you share things, you have people come in and spread education. It's a great thing. Zoom is another one. There's Zoom support groups. You don't always have to go in person if you can't get away. And then seek counseling if you should need that. I'm not going to go over the 10 tips for family caregivers. That was one of Ann's that she had referred me to years ago, Ann LaRue. And it's from the Caregiver Action Network. Okay. This next one is a powerful tool for caregivers. And so it's your action plan. So maybe on Sunday, you write your action plan for the week. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What do you want to do? So for example, what are you going to do? I'm going to read a novel. How much are you going to do? I'm going to read 1 chapter. When are you going to do it? Before I go to bed or with my morning coffee. How often are you going to do it? Every other day. And then you actually fill in, were you able to complete what your goals were? Maybe your goal is getting out of your pajamas by 10 o'clock every morning. That's okay to have that as a goal. Maybe your goal is to make 2 nutritious meals for the week or 1 crock pot meal this week. So this is just a little sheet to kind of get you thinking about what your goals are and so forth. This last piece of paper came from our integrative therapist at Lower Cape for Life Care, Lorraine Perry, and it's called a labyrinth. Has anybody heard of a labyrinth? Okay, so it's a winding pathway to an inner circle, and it provides a quiet, peaceful place to relax and release emotions. So on our campus, we have a huge labyrinth. We also have one at our Brunswick Care Center campus, but they're open to the public. There's no charge. Feel free to go over there on a Sunday and just wander the labyrinth in the gardens. But it's just, they're definitely beautiful. But what Lorraine did is she knows everybody's crunched for time. So on the back, it explains what a labyrinth is. But since you all have a table, you can put the labyrinth on the table right now. Put your labyrinth on the table. And what I want you to do is put 2 feet on the ground, as I just watched you cross your feet. Put 2 feet, close your eyes just for a moment, and take 3 good breaths. Breathe in like you're smelling the flowers, and then breathe out like you're blowing out birthday candles. And just do that 3 times just to clear your mind. And then after you've done that, take your labyrinth and put your finger, it looks like the inner portion of a brain, but put your finger at the bottom where the opening is, and just very slowly trace your finger through the labyrinth of where you want to go. And when you're stressed and you're feeling tension, do this at home. Bring your little labyrinth out. Keep it at your work desk. Make copies of it. Maybe you have one in your bedroom at night before you go to sleep. Maybe you have one on the kitchen table. Maybe you have one on your work desk. But those are all things to relax you. And I'm a big fan of aromatherapy. Sometimes baking, and that aroma just brings out really good senses for everybody. Just making a batch of fake cookies out of the package. But the smell in the house is just really, really nice, or brownies, something like that. But then you can get all of those different aromatherapies. Bed Bath & Beyond carries them, and you put it in a little humidifier kind of thing. And you can blend eucalyptus with citrus and orange. And I'll tell you what, when you're it's just so helpful, and it just releases a lot of that tension, okay? I am a caregiver, and I know what I have to do to survive every day. I have to take care of myself first, and I have to let things go. Don't let things bother me like in the old days, okay? Because I know if I am not in good health, the person I'm caring for is going to be neglected from that. Any questions? Was this a little helpful for you? Good. Any questions from the cloud? Well, I thank you so much.
Karen just said, walking in a labyrinth is great. It's great meditation too. You can look up locations online and find them scattered about in the countryside. They're free and open to the public.
So Karen has told us that there's labyrinths all over. Look them up online. They're relaxing and meditative. They're free. I'd love for you to come over to Lower Cape for Life Care on Physicians Drive and walk the labyrinth there, or the one in Brunswick County in Bolivia. But excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Nikki. Okay. Well, thank you for the great evening. I appreciate you asking me to speak, and I hope you have a good rest of your Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for the great information. It was the 4 Ds. I made notes here. 4 Ds, warning signs, goal setting. All this sounds good, really good. And caregiving is a significant undertaking for every person that has that encounter. And so thank you for attending tonight, watching tonight. Feedback forms are on the tables in front of you. We'd love to have feedback for the presentation to help us improve and be better. If you're a first time visiting with us, please make sure you leave contact information if you'd like invitations about future events. Our next meeting is March the 14th here where we're sitting tonight. at 6 p.m. And the topic is Home is Where the Heart Is, Residential Options as We Age. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. Have a good night.
We can just stay in the I'm not really used to the emails as well.
Okay. You're crying in the closet. You're frustrated with your husband.